2 months after my brother and his wife bought a new house, they had to go out of town and needed their cats fed. Their house and my office are both a good drive from my apartment, but only a few minutes away from each other. My brother said if I wanted, I could just stay over in the guest room rather than driving amongst the 3 places, so I got the keys and instructions. I was staying there for 3 nights, Monday to Wednesday. Monday evening was uneventful until about midnight. I was lying on the living room couch watching Conan with a cat lying on my chest. I started to drift off to sleep. The next thing I knew, I was standing in pitch black darkness. I completely freaked out. I had no idea where I was. I felt around in the dark and felt nothing. Finally, I realized there was a faint blue light coming from above. I moved towards it and then understood where I was. I was in the fucking basement. The light was coming through the basement door at the top of the stairs, which leads to the kitchen. Just enough moonlight apparently made it through from a window elsewhere in the kitchen. I bolted up the stairs, turned on the kitchen light, and closed the basement door. I was terrified, until I calmed down enough to come to the conclusion you probably already came to. I had sleepwalked all the way down the stairs after opening the basement door, which I know was closed. A couple of things are important to the story. First, the basement. The house was very nice, actually more than they should have been able to afford. The only exception was the basement. I had only seen the basement once, when I first got the tour. It was totally unfinished and was the one major thing they wanted to fix up. All they had down there was some boxes and the washer and dryer. I had no reason to want to go down there and had kind of forgotten it existed. The other point is that sleepwalking is kind of a thing in my family, almost an inside joke. My brother talked in his sleep constantly and would sleepwalk sometimes, and it always scared the hell out of me. The idea of people doing things in their sleep just creeps me out to the core. Still does. My brother knew this and would tease me about it, so it was known in my family that I had this phobia. But as far as I know, I had never ever sleepwalked until that night. The image kept playing in my mind over and over of me asleep, getting up from the couch, walking to the kitchen, opening the basement door and shuffling down the stairs into total darkness, creepy as all hell. Anyway, I saw that the TV was still on in the living room, playing Wedding Crashers. I watched the rest of the movie, trying to laugh and think of the sleepwalking as a funny story to tell my brother. When I went upstairs to go to sleep in the guest room, I stayed asleep. That was night 1. The next morning, in the light of day, it didn't seem that scary. I texted my brother about it and joked around. All day I wasn't bothered one bit, but as I'm walking out of my office to my car, I'm overcome with this sense of dread. All of a sudden, the thought of going to sleep in that house and maybe sleepwalking again is scaring me. So I had a plan. I stop at the hardware store and pick up one of those rubber door stopper wedges. At the house, I jam this into the crack under the basement door and kick it in until as far as it can go. I test out opening the door and it won't budge. Perfect. Later, I go upstairs and fall asleep. When I wake up, I swear to God I think I'm dreaming. I was standing in darkness again, but this time I know exactly where I am. The smell is the same. The concrete floor under my feet is the same. I look around for the light from upstairs, and it takes me longer to find it because it's farther away. Last night I was only a couple of feet from the stairs. This night it was maybe 10 feet. I run up and turn on the kitchen lights. I see the rubber wedges on the floor a couple of feet away, as if tossed there. Again, I can't stop picturing myself sleepwalking. Out of the bedroom, down the stairs, trying to open the basement door, bending down and yanking out the wedge, and then again slowly down into the basement. I decided I was turning on the basement lights and they were staying on. I opened the door and flipped the switch to the basement stairway. I saw there was a main switch at the bottom of the stairs. To give you a quick sense of the layout, the staircase splits the basement into 2 parts. To the right is a small area with a washer and dryer, and to the left is a big open area. Anyway, I walked down and turned on the lights for the whole basement. That's when I noticed something I hadn't noticed when my brother gave me the tour. About 10 to 15 feet away, in the big area, there was a door to what looked like a small closet. The door was closed, but had no doorknob, just an empty hole, so it looked like it would freely swing open. I realized it was very close to where I had just awoken. Then a fucking freaky thought came to me. It was as if each night I was heading closer to that door and getting a little farther each time before I woke up. As soon as that thought popped into my head, I booked it up the stairs again, left the lights on and closed the door. I went up to the bedroom, but it took me forever to fall asleep. That was night 2. The next morning, Wednesday morning, I woke up late for work. I didn't even think about the basement at all because I was scrambling to get ready. At work though, I was still curious about what was behind the door, so I texted my brother and asked. He replied, "Wait, why were you in the basement?" I realized that when I texted him the day before, I never actually told him where I woke up. So I tell him I woke up in the basement, actually twice in a row. After a while, he sends me this novel-length text about how the basement is creepy and not to go down there, etc. How they tried putting the litter boxes in the basement and the cats made a mess in the house because they refused to go down. And how he volunteers to do every chore other than the laundry so he doesn't have to go down there. He says all this stuff, and it's surprising to me because my brother never believed in the paranormal or superstitions, ever since we were kids. I also realized he never answered my question about the door, but I let it go. After work, I get the same feeling of dread as I'm walking to my car. I really don't want to stay there again, and I decide, fuck it, I don't have to. So I go feed the cats, get my stuff, and drive back to my place. I'm supposed to feed the cats one more time, so I'll stop over in the morning. As I went to sleep at my apartment, I was thinking of all the steps I would have to take to sleepwalk to that basement again, find my car parked around the block, drive asleep to my brother's house, etc. But this time, I sleep through the night. That was night 3. Thursday morning, I stop at the house as planned. I'm about to leave when I remember that the basement lights are still on. I don't even hesitate to go down and turn them off. There was something about being there in the morning that at the time made it seem fine. When I go down, again that door without a doorknob catches my eye. And it also doesn't seem scary anymore. So what the hell? Let's see. I walk over to it and I distinctly remember not feeling spooked at all, until I reach my hand towards the doorknob hole to pull it open. As soon as I do that, and I mean instantly, I feel this electric feeling, like the air before a storm, and I imagine a hand coming through that hole and grabbing mine. It was like 0 to 60, going from no fear to being certain that something horrible would happen if I opened that door. It's hard to describe it other than an electric feeling. I booked it up the stairs and out of the house. So a month later, I meet my brother for happy hour. A few drinks in, we start joking about me sleepwalking and the creepy basement. I say he never answered me about what's behind that door, and he says, I don't want to know. Joking at first, but then insisting. Finally he tells me, and I don't believe him. He's my big brother and has only bullshitted me about 1,000,000 times in my life. This was his explanation. The previous and first owners of the house had a teen daughter that used the basement as her bedroom. The door was her closet, where one night she curled up, took some pills and killed herself. The family was going to remodel the basement, but after tearing it apart, realized they couldn't do it and had to move. That was why the only basement was unfinished, and why my brother was able to afford the place. The seller had to disclose a suicide happened in the residence. He said if I didn't believe him, to look up the market value of the identical houses in the area. I know how much they paid for their house, and it was way lower. He and his wife considered themselves rational people and figured it was a bargain, but didn't want to tell anybody. After they moved in, his wife was fine with the basement, but he grew to hate it. He apologized for not saying anything to me before staying there, but he never thought I'd have any reason to go down there. Now here's what convinced me. I said, okay, The only thing that makes me kind of believe you is that the last morning I was there, I went over to the closet door, and at this point, I see my brother's face change, and I continued. When I went to open it, the air felt like, and at that same instant, I say electricity, and my brother says electric, at the exact same time. I saw his face, and I knew he was telling the truth. I've never stepped foot again in that basement, and I haven't sleepwalked since. So in high school, I worked kids' birthday parties. The place was basically a giant gym, and gymnastics and dance classes were also held there. One day I came in, and one of the girls I worked with, who was very spiritual and very religious, was totally freaked out. During the gymnastics class she taught that morning, one of the kids was staring up at the ceiling. When she asked the kid what he was doing, he said, "There's a little boy up there," and pointed at the ceiling. Strange enough, but whatever, kids are weird. Later, two girls who were working a birthday party before mine came out of the gym and were visibly shaken. A pair of 5-year-old twins went down a slide and then stared at the ceiling. They both said that there was a little boy up there in the same spot on the ceiling that the kid from the morning gymnastics class was pointing at. We all went in and inspected the ceiling. Of course, it was just a regular grey, warehousey ceiling, but we were all super freaked out at this point. During my party, I was pushing a little boy on the giant swing we had in the gym. He too began to stare at the ceiling. He said, directly to my face, "Hey, there's a little boy up there." We told all our co-workers and managers about the 3 separate experiences we had today with children from different parties and classes seeing a little boy on the ceiling. The next day, we had downtime between parties and nobody was in the gym. There are cameras in the gym that allow parents to see their children playing from the lobby. My manager called us out of the break room and said, "Guys, check this out." We come out and see the screen, which is streaming from the gym, showing that giant swing going back and forth. Nobody is in there, it's just the swing going. I like to think that the ghost was truly a little boy who just wanted to play and he finally got to go on the swing. Could be worse. When I was younger, I used to take naps upstairs, but by the time I was 8 years old, I absolutely refused to go upstairs. The upstairs had 2 large closets. They ran from one side of the upstairs all the way to the other side on both sides. It was essentially a crawl space that was maybe 30 feet long. It started one day when a friend and I went crawling from one side to the other with flashlights like kids normally do. Then I saw a girl sitting there in the corner, acting like she wanted to play with us. I know a lot of people say when they see a ghost they aren't scared, just interested. Nope, I was beyond terrified. This girl looks normal, had blonde hair, a nice dress, and seemed friendly. I stayed silent. I kept crawling behind my friend and got out of the closet. I told him what I saw in there. He said he didn't see it, but felt like he didn't want to go back in. Then my parents would occasionally send me upstairs to get something, and when I would get up there, I would see the door swing open as if they were trying to get me to come inside. I would lose toys and wouldn't be able to find them anywhere. Suddenly, my parents would be fishing out Christmas presents out of the attic, and we would find some of my toys up there. I remember being 8 years old. My parents are asleep still in the morning, and I leashed up my dog to go take on the monster in the attic. My dog, usually up for anything, refused to go off the top step into the attic. My parents never believed me with all the weird things that happened in that house. I would get blamed for things that happened all over the house, leaving lights on, toys all over, things I knew I didn't do. Well, anyway, we move out of there when I am 10. Not a week passes before the new owners call us up and ask if the house is haunted. Their daughter sleeps upstairs. She says that she has been playing with a blonde-haired girl at night. My parents laughed at how crazy these new homeowners must be. To make an already long story short, the girl started appearing in other parts of the house for them. They would look over while watching TV and see the girl sitting on the daughter's lap, etc. They looked up on the computer the past owners of the house, found an old dressmaker that lived there, and yep, a picture of the little girl wearing one of the ladies' dresses. The family that moved in there were absolutely torn apart by the events, got divorced, Dad stayed living in the house and ended up taking his life in that house. This is actually my husband's story. When he was in high school, he and some of his friends had a camp out at his friend's aunt and uncle's house out in the country. They did the usual cooking out, putting up a tent, etc. At some point during the night, my husband went for a short walk near a small pond on the property to take a leak. As he was doing his business, he looked up and saw a man walking around the edge of the pond towards him. He clearly saw this man, who was walking with his head down. He described him as wearing a red flannel shirt, jeans and work boots. He thought that was very strange that this guy was out walking around a pond in the country in the middle of the night. So he goes, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He didn't get an answer, and the guy kept walking past him and was now facing away when suddenly he just wasn't there anymore. My husband went and told his friends what happened. The boy whose relatives owned the property was shocked and immediately ran towards the house and woke them up. He had my husband describe what he had seen. The boy's aunt immediately started to cry. She had been seeing this same man in the house, sometimes standing at the foot of the bed, and her husband did not believe her. He had been accusing her of insanity, and apparently they were on the brink of divorce from the issue. She was so relieved that someone had been able to validate what she had been experiencing. My friend Ricky told me this story a few years ago. Rick is a very serious guy, conservative, mid-30s, he's not particularly religious, he doesn't drink or do drugs, and he doesn't believe in anything supernatural. He's into hunting, fishing, eating deer and wild animals, and that's about it. He's not the type to tell tall tales, that's why I believe him when he told me this. When Rick was 24, he was in his bathroom when he heard someone walking around his house. It was his brother Mikey. Rick is really surprised to see him because his brother is at college across the country. "I just want to tell you everything is cool, man. I'm fine," Mikey says. Rick is like, "What the fuck is going on? What happened?" Mikey says, "I've got to go now. Sorry, don't have time to stay. Love ya," and walks out the front door. Rick is confused and cannot speak. He said it felt like he was frozen, actually got shivers and could barely speak the entire time. He tried to follow him out the door. Mikey is gone. There's no sign of him. No car engines driving away. Nothing. Rick immediately calls him. This was in the early 2000s before everyone had phones. No answer. Rick calls his mum. She answers and he tells her that Mikey just showed up at his place acting weird. She has no idea. Both of them try to contact Mikey for the rest of the day to no avail. Rick drives around the neighborhood looking for him. About an hour later, Mum calls Rick. Mikey died in a car accident late the night before. The car wasn't found until morning. It was in a field way off the road. I was about 12 years old and woke up in the middle of the night, needing to take a leak. I walked across the hall to the little bathroom, hit the lights and was about to reach for the toilet when I glanced up and saw a face in the mirror. It was not my face. It was as if someone was on the other side, standing to the right with their face right next to the glass, staring at me. I only saw it for the briefest moment, but it seared into my brain. I screamed and ran out of there to find my dad. Of course, my dad investigated, then calmed me down, or tried to. Eventually we had a prayer session because I was so freaked out. Eventually I must have gone back to sleep. Fast forward to my 30s, I had forgotten all about the event. One night while visiting, my dad quietly brings it up. Remember that one time you saw a face in the mirror? It suddenly came back to me in a rush of memory, sending a chill down my spine. Yeah, I remember. Well, he said, I sometimes think about that night. He looked down at the floor with a serious expression. I saw it too. He went on to describe exactly what I'd seen. We have no idea what that was. Apparently, when he investigated, he saw it and had a freak out of his own. Apparently, the prayer session was as much for his nerves as mine. I respect him for keeping that tidbit from me till my 30s, but I kinda wish he never told me. I was one of the firefighters working on Ground Zero for 9/11. I lost 2 of my buddies and it still haunts me to this day. As I was making my way through the rubble, I heard someone screaming. I bolted to wherever I heard the sound and only found a twisted body on a rebar. The body was burnt and pale, and it looked like it had been there for a while. I watched a firefighter walk up the rubble towards me and hug me. I was confused, but I understood why he wanted a hug. I hugged him back, and when I opened my eyes, there was no firefighter. I stood there, holding a helmet. I don't know how I got this helmet, but it was in my hands. The golden eagle on the front had been bronzed, and a hole through the side of the helmet, with dried blood around it. I was holding this helmet in tears, while in front of an impaled civilian. I did some research, and the firefighter that I hugged had apparently died 3 hours before I saw him. I still have that helmet, and I will never forget the hug that fallen firefighter gave me. I lived in an old haunted house in college. Things got so weird that everyone moved out except for me and one roommate. Here's a few. Number 1. I woke up at 3 a.m. because my roommate's door kept opening and slamming shut. From my bed, I yelled for him to stop, only to realise I was the only one home that weekend. As soon as I yelled, the slamming stopped, but the hippie beads I had hanging outside my closed door began to sway perfectly, yet violently, against the doorframe for half an hour. While I debated if I should pop out my air conditioner unit and jump out the window, I laid in the fetal position in bed until it stopped. Number 2. I woke up at 3 a.m, alone again, hearing the Nintendo in the back porch playing loudly. I figured a drunk kid came in and started playing. I grabbed a bat and walked towards the back of the house as the music got louder and louder. As soon as I opened the door, it was completely quiet. Mind you, it was loud enough to wake me up. Number 3. I had friends over and told them the house was haunted. No one believed me, so I asked the ghost to do anything to prove it was there. As soon as I asked, all the lights in the house began flickering for about a minute straight. This was in the middle of the day. Everyone witnessed it. Number 4. Almost everyone who stayed at my house had sleep paralysis at least once in the house. Number 5. Every time something spooky happened, the house would smell like old lady flowery strong perfume. Number 6. This house had a door built into the flooring that led to the basement. We always had a rug covering up so no one knew it was there. Things would constantly go missing in the house and turning up in the basement. This house had a coal chute from when it was heated by coal back in the day. Missing stuff would always be placed on the chute for us to come and get. Number 7. My roommate had some issues. Once while I was playing video games late at night, he saw mist kind of hovering from the kitchen, then moved into the bathroom. The bathroom had a trap door that led to the attic. That's where we figured the old lady ghost used to like to hang out. Number 8. My roommate was up late. He went to go lock the doors and turn off the lights. When he turned his back on the room and walked to the door, someone breathed in his ear. He thought it was me. I was sleeping. He turned around, pissed himself, and ran to his room. He was too afraid to come out and turn off the light and the TV. Number 9. Loud thumps in the attic at all hours. For peace of mind, we told ourselves squirrels must have got in there. Number 10. Voices would wake us up in the middle of the night. I spent many mornings on the front porch waiting for the sun to come up before I went back into the house. Number 11. Coincidentally, I had a friend years later that rented from the same landlord, same town, different house, where he and all of his roommates moved out because that house was also haunted. I didn't think it was too weird until he was telling me that when all of this weird stuff happened, it was accompanied by an old lady, flowery, stinky perfume. Also, a lot of people had sleep paralysis in that house as well.